Hey guys, Nate with Zbroz, and today we're going to go over how to install our Pro XP high ground clearance maximum strength trailing arm. So we call this our Pro Max because it is as strong as possible while gaining some ground clearance. We're just going to give you the basic install instructions, what you're going to need tool wise, and we'll just jump into that right now. On those applications like the XP1000,
we supply a divider that's cut down.
billet nut. Another Honda Talon. This happens to be a 1000R. Okay, basic hand tools, 15mm end wrench, 18mm end wrench, 15 and 18mm socket. You're going to need a deep 15 with an extension or an extension with the 15 for one location, your ratchet, rivet gun of some sort, and then a drill with a 3/16 drill bit. And that's all that you need. All right, so throughout this install, we've actually already got a Zbroz trailing arm on this car, so some of the steps are going to be a little bit different visually speaking. So we've got the tire and wheel out of the way, and step one is going to be drilling out your rivets. So there is rivet locations in the factory trailing arm. They're on the top of the arm, but you're going to use a drill and a 3/16 drill bit to drill these 4 rivet locations out of the factory trailing arm so that your brake line is loose. So just to be correct, so you don't get confused, because we're showing a Zbroz trailing arm here in the background. The rivets do come off of the factory trailing arm the exact same way. They're just mounted on top. So you want to drill those out first and then undo your sway bar and shock, lower shock mount location first. So we're going to do those 2 steps first. All right, so you want to use your 15mm end wrench and ratchet to remove your lower sway bar bolt, and loosen the top one just barely. It'll make it easier so you can swing this up out of your way when you're working on doing the rest of the steps. Just want to swing that up out of the way for right now. Hang on to your factory bolt and nut, that's going to get reused, so that's why I loosened that up, so you can just swing it up out of your way. Then grabbing the 18mm end wrench, we're going to do the lower shock mount next. All right, so back behind the hub, you got to get to these 4 bolt locations that hold the trailing arm on. You can reach in behind the hub or the disc here and hold on to the nut. Take all 4 of these off. There is a washer, so don't lose the washer. So lift up on the hub, hold the shock out of the way. Having a second hand helps for this, and then you're able to drop the trailing arm down, and then you just have the forward connection, which is an 18mm. Again, this is our trailing arm shown, but it's the same process, same bolt and hardware. Once you pull that bolt out, the trailing arm will be loose. You can set the factory trailing arm out of the way, and then we're going to reverse that process to put the new one on. Okay, so now that we have the trailing arm out of the box, you're going to have some hardware. You're going to have some rivets, which is obvious, that's going to hold your brake line back on. Then there's some reducers. Now, there is not a position on these reducers. They're all the same, so you just need one on each side. And then you're going to start by reversing the process that we just did. You want to start right here in the front, slide it up in the frame. This one's a little bit hard to get to because we got an aftermarket skid plate that's in our way. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. Stock, you're going to be able to get to that bolt real easy. And tighten this to factory torque specs with your 18 millimeter. Now the Heim joint that's in here should be set and tight to your factory length, so you shouldn't have to worry about anything there. It should already be tight. But you do have that option to adjust that if you want to lengthen or shorten the trailing arm length, which can affect your toe on the rear tires a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so now that we have that front attachment point tight, you gotta lift this back up. This is where some extra hands are useful, but you wanna lift up on the hub and drop this around your axle. And then you just have to line back up your 4 bolts and slide it on like that. Then grab the 4 nuts with the 4 washers. You are going to reuse the washers. Put those on first. And then the 4 nuts, and then we're going to torque these down to factory torque specs. Okay, so you should have some factory tabs on here. You can see you can just start at the front and work your way back. You're just going to line those back up and use the supplied rivet and rivet going front to back. Hook your brake line back up. Now if you get powder coat or something in there, because you have your 3/16 drill bit, you just kind of clean that out a little bit. It'll help the rivet to drop in. Okay, those 4 locations are hooked up. Brake line's out of the way. Now we're going to hook back up our shock bolt. Just like so. Use your 18 millimeter. Tighten this back up. Okay, now that the shock mount's hooked up, I'm going to hook back up your sway bar. Can be a little tight with the powder coat buildup. That's what you want. You have to clean it out, but and then just torque back your 2 bolt locations. Remember, we loosened this up before, so make sure you get that tight and that tight to factory torque specs, and you're done. So that is all it takes. Obviously, we have it on the lift. It's a little bit easier and quicker to do, but you can do this with a jack in your yard with those basic hand tools. All right, so we just went over the basic tools and instructions for installing this trailing arm. It's pretty straightforward, not too difficult, something you can do with a jack in your garage. Again, the main reasons for changing out these trailing arms, besides the styling and the look, is the ground clearance and the strength that you're going to gain from adding a Zbroz trailing arm. It's available in red and black, and then also raw, so if you want to powder coat it to match a custom powder that you have, we've got you covered. So as always, reach out to your local Zbroz dealer or check us out at zbrozracing.com and see everything that we have for the Polaris Pro XP and other models.